When it was said a Tetris film was being made, goodness knows how many years ago, it seemed absurd. It was possibly going to be a meme about falling blocks coming down onto screaming people or something. Instead, in 2023, we get the biopic thriller streaming on Apple TV at this moment, simply titled Tetris. Pretty much every human being on this planet knows what Tetris is. It's a video game where you move descending blocks to make as many lines as possible before the screen fills up. But maybe not everyone knows about the origins of the game and who owned the rights to it. Or if you do, you know what essentially happens by the end of this film. Is it a good one to watch? Or is it better to just simply boot up a game of Tetris and play that? Let's find out. The film mainly covers the attempts of entrepreneur Hank Rogers to sell the rights of a wide-reaching title puzzle game to Nintendo before the launch of the Game Boy. But this conflicts with the computer and console rights surrounding Mirrorsoft and especially L.org in Russia, the organization in charge of what computer software was imported and exported. Hank befriends the creator of Tetris, Alexei Patanov, while visiting Russia uninvited during the ongoing Cold War. This story is mostly told as a relatively quick-paced thriller with lots of business, financial accounting and licensing jargon. Most of what happens on screen is meant to be accurate, with obvious exceptions such as a surprisingly tense car chase towards the end. Aspects surrounding the origins of Tetris, such as the game being banned from office computers because of its addictive nature, are mentioned, or events such as Hank Rogers and Robert Stein not being aware of each other's presences at L.org that actually did happen. If there are any films to compare this to, The Social Network is one example, except the rights are not about Facebook, but about Tetris. It is almost absurd that amongst the constant dialogue about who owes money to who and the political situation in Russia in the late 80s, it is all centered on this one puzzle game that had and eventually would take the whole world by storm, selling way too many copies, especially when packaged with the Game Boy. If you are into this style of film or into biographic films complete with licensing issue discussions, or are also into Tetris or fast-paced films, it can be quite enjoyable, but only to a degree. The pixelated animations shown in the trailer are actually part of the editing style, and while they are sometimes good for scene transitions, this can lead to a little less immersion. The animations are thankfully used less as the film goes on, though it has to be said, the animations, alongside mentions such as the Game Boy schematics, are very nerdy and kinda cool, except for the animation of Zelda, which is not NES Zelda as it should be, but early 2000s Zelda. Speaking of the aforementioned jargon, the film could be sometimes hard to follow, but this is mostly down to expectations. This is not just about Hank Rogers and Nintendo getting Tetris, but also Stein and Maxwell and Mirrorsoft also putting forward the best offers for holding on to Tetris, let alone for systems that weren't for Game Boy. Looking at the production values again, the film is generally well made, the acting is fine across the board, rarely missing a beat, and the music, as befitting the 80s and Tetris game, is great. You do hear a remix of at least Type A from Tetris on the Game Boy, as well as Europe's The Final Countdown, which is used not just for a dance scene, but also to count down to a series of 10 scenes, including those of supporting characters like Hank Rogers' wife and children, whom add a sense of stakes and poignancy. Overall, Tetris is a simple, yet compelling Hollywood-style film about key aspects of the origins of Tetris. It is not necessarily thematically deep, aside from possibly discussing the potentially nerdy aspects of game development and business, and overcoming differences. Alexei even says, good ideas have no borders. And the animation is sometimes unnecessary, as cool as it's meant to be for a car chase scene and such. Also, if you want to know more about the more complex history surrounding the origins of Tetris, you can look that up. Still, it's a generally fun film to watch if you're into Tetris/video games in general, or some kind of biography drama/thriller. While not even addictive enough as to be a Tetris effect, surely so much as Hank Rogers saying he sees the falling shapes in his sleep after prolonged playing will get you booting up that puzzle game again.